Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy.
So today, we're going to talk about an elementary school shooting.
Why do you sound excited?
I feel like that's a trigger in itself because it's different from what we normally do.
Seek out an elementary school shooting?
No, but this girl is, her claim to fame, among many things that we'll address, is that she is the first U.S. school shooter that is a female.
Well, I don't know who she is, so...
Not yet.
It's going to be a memory dump after this, so I'm not going to remember her name. What? Forgot what we were talking about.
Go take you a nap. I'll just do the rest. Anyway.
If you go any slower, I might.
Fuck you. How about that? I feel like for the fourth time, telling you it's an elementary school shooting it's in itself a trigger. But we're also going to talk about molestation and a little bit of domestic violence. So our location is San Diego, California, and our time frame is my favorite, the wonderful 70s. We're going to discuss the elementary school shooting of Grover Cleveland Elementary School in San Diego, California. Our shooter, her name is Brenda Ann Spencer.
Is she a teacher
Brenda
there?
Brenda was born April 3rd, 1960. Brenda was born April 3rd, 1962. Her parents separated when she was young, and she stayed living with her father, Wallace Spencer. From what I read, she was around 9 when this whole living situation started.
She's the one who's our shooter?
I said she's our shooter. I just said our shooter is Brenda Ann Spencer. Clean your ear holes.
She's 9? How old was she when she's a shooter?
Excuse me. Hold up. How many times have we discussed the background and childhood of our shooters, killers, people?
I know, but you said
lots
in the 60s,
of times.
she's
nearly.
I was picturing like a 40-year-old like lady with a lot of cats who's mad at elementary school kids because they aren't listening. And then you just said
First
9.
of all, I said she was born in 1962.
Yeah,
when her parents separated,
said...
she was young. She was 9 years old when she began living with her father.
Right.
And her mom was gone.
You said this takes place in your favorite part of the time in the 70s. In the 60s, she's gonna be young,
a teenager. Yes. Yes.
So she goes to an elementary school?
No, but we're getting there. If you just hold your damn panties. So from what I gather, Brenda also has 2 siblings. We'll discuss that a little bit later, but I don't think that they were around while... I think the siblings came after the shooting. So
they came after her. That's what happens when you're the oldest.
So Brenda does have an older brother. And as far as I understand, Brenda's mother, her name was Dot, or she went by the name Dot, did not fight for custody of Brenda because she said she couldn't afford a lawyer. But she did eventually go on record as saying that she suspected that the father and daughter had a very unhealthy relationship. Her mom saying that she knew that the husband had an unhealthy relationship with their daughter. The little girl was 9 when she left. So I don't like her mom. And I'm pretty sure she's still alive, and she can know that I don't like her because no, call the cops. If you think that your husband is doing something inappropriate with your child, you call the cops. But anyway, and before you ask, Claire, we do have a head injury on record. Apparently at some point after Brenda's arrest for the shooting, it's discovered that she has suffered a major injury to her temporal lobe due to an accident on her bicycle when she was younger. So we do have that as an issue.
That's where you need a PSA for helmet usage. If you don't make them wear them while they're bicycling, they could grow up to be a murderer.
Now, Wallace, the father, and Brenda, they lived a very, very poor lifestyle. And Wallace is described as being antisocial and a loner with a drinking problem. It's also alleged that Wallace Spencer was an alcoholic with rotting teeth, and he enjoyed sleeping with lots of random women.
Or is he a toothless ladies' man?
I think he's a toothless ladies' man.
Well, there are toothless ladies out there, so they need loving too.
I think he's scooping off the bottom of the barrel there.
Skipping on. It's scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Whatever. The father and daughter.
What's skipping off the barrel?
I said scooping. Like
you did not.
Yes, I did. It's recorded.
I know. We've had these conversations before.
We'll see.
Sure
we
will.
shall see. Anyway, can I continue?
Yes, with the toothless loving. Get.
I'm done with that part. Now, I'm going to tell you that Wallace and Brenda, again, keep in mind, she's elementary school age, slept on a single mattress on the living room floor together.
Ew.
Yes.
You remember when our brother had all those mattresses stacked up on the floor? I mean, they were twin bed mattresses, but he had like 4 mattresses stacked on top of each other. I mean, they were still twin beds.
He had a Princess and the Pea situation going on.
He did. I don't know, like, seriously, though, I don't know where those sponge mattresses came from.
I don't know.
Like, as far as I know, you can't buy those now.
I'm surprised that you are not more of a reaction on the father requiring his daughter to sleep in bed with him.
We've been through a lot of cases where there's some nefarious things going on between father and daughter. You've already warned me with molestation. That's where I don't like the triggers, because then I'm not shocked. Kind of want that shock factor. Sometimes with lower income families back in the day, or probably even now, sleeping in the same room isn't a thing. Like, that's the only mattress they have, so it's a dog pile.
It says that Brenda and her older brother lived with their dad.
What the fuck? Were they all on the same mattress, or did he sleep in his own room?
I don't know, but
what the fuck?
But it's also said that
I figured it out. I know why they were in the living room, because they only had the one TV.
Well, anywho, there were also empty bottles of alcohol throughout the whole house.
But how do you skip over I nailed it with the mattress being in the living room? It's right off the kitchen and in front of the TV. His wife left, so he moved the mattress in the living room.
It's entirely possible.
I would say I hit the nail on the head with that one. And that's why it was a mattress on the floor, because he left the bed frame in the bedroom. There's nothing you can say right now to convince me otherwise.
I wouldn't even try.
Good thing.
They were living like you would expect, no offense, menfolk, but a manfolk who no longer has his gnome to clean up after him and throw in a drinking problem.
And I was going to say, and it's an alcoholic. Ew, pee bottles.
Ew. Well, this is extra ew because Brenda, I don't know at what age she started, but she would allegedly walk around and help herself to the alcohol left strewn about the house. So
some of it might have been pee.
I guess it's still alcohol.
Well, which totally means she knows what an IPA tastes like.
The home that Brenda and her dad lived in was located directly across the street from Grover Cleveland Elementary School. And when they were living across the street, Brenda was about 16 years old. She was 5'2". She had bright red hair and she was a skinny little girl. And she wore like those typical 70s glasses that are like way too big for her face.
They trickled to the 80s and the 90s. You had you a pair.
I don't like you no more. It's also noted. Yes, I had them in 3rd grade. They were freaking bifocals. Anyway, are you done? I'm saying you're done. It's also noted that Brenda, as she got older, she rarely smiled, which if you're sharing a bed with your father, who's an alcoholic and filthy,
and he might have drank pee, I wouldn't be smiling either. Or maybe she was just trying not to brag about she still had her teeth.
So Brenda's father was accused by Brenda of being an alcoholic who sexually abused her and physically abused her. Her father semi-denied the claims. And by semi, I mean he's quoted as saying, or he's quoted as asking, wait, did she say that? Or he would also say he doesn't want to discuss it.
Well, that's a man answer. Saying, I don't want to talk about it. He's going to claim he doesn't remember anyway. It's disgusting.
We'll get more. We'll
Why
discuss
didn't
him
she
more.
Shoot him if she had a gun.
Oh, it gets better. And by better, I mean just more
I
disgusting.
was gonna say, like, I think you don't know what that word means.
Although Brenda enjoyed photography, and she also won first prize for a Humane Society competition, so she had like a natural talent for photography, she hated
It's the
school.
competition.
Doesn't matter. It was whatever the Humane Society's competition was, she entered it with a photo. She won first place. She had a natural talent for photography, is my point. But she didn't like going to school, Claire,
Yeah, just being asked questions here.
because I can't get through this daggone case. She attended Patrick Henry High School, and one of her teachers remembers constantly having to ask Brenda if she was awake and paying attention during class, which resulted in Brenda regularly skipping. What?
It's next to a smelly,
Because her
toothless alcoholic. I wouldn't get much sleep either.
who was apparently possibly copping a feel.
Yeah.
So Brenda, I guess, didn't like having her sleep disturbed during school hours, so she started skipping school.
I thought you were gonna say she painted eyeballs on her eyelids. That doesn't work.
Eventually, she ended up being sent to a school for problem students due to her truancy issues. And in early 1978, the staff of the school said that Brenda was suicidal. Her father, good old Wallace,
Decided to homeschool her?
he sure didn't. Instead, he asked, "How do you ever really know if a person is suicidal?"
Let's give her this blade and see.
So that was in the beginning of 1978. And then during that summer, Brenda would go around with her pal and they would start killing birds and rabbits in their neighborhood just for fun. Brenda was also known for torturing cats in the area and that she dug a series of tunnels in her backyard.
Um,
A little weird.
are we sure they weren't just that many graves? They confused it as a tunnel system and it was just burial grounds. Sounds like a healthy father-daughter relationship.
Sure
And in their
is.
neighborhood? What are they killing
Mhm.
it with? The bare hands?
I'm not sure. I know that he had a lot of ammunition in his house and he had a thing for guns. So I'm going to guess it was just they were shooting them.
Yeah,
I
but they're
don't know with
across the
what.
street from a school.
The woods don't surround your house. You can have a backyard.
There's most likely a house right near it.
Probably. But anywho, that was during the summer. And then she ended up getting arrested same year for
How old?
shooting out the windows of the elementary school across the street with a BB gun. And then she broke in, vandalized the interior of some of the classrooms, and also burglarized the school.
She's still 16?
Yeah, I guess this puts her at like 14 or 15.
So she's not 16.
No, not yet. So a semi friend of Brenda's said that Brenda started becoming extremely hostile about authority figures, specifically directed towards police officers. I guess because she got arrested for being a little shit and breaking into the school, she thought that they were bad.
Again, misplaced.
Brenda would open,
Just like her
yes,
dad's
Brenda
penis
would
and
openly,
hands.
and apparently his teeth too.
Those have been gone for a while.
They were misplaced.
He done ate them.
So anyway, Brenda spoke out openly about wanting to shoot a police officer. Yes. Also alarming comments from Brenda to, I believe it was the same friend, but I'm not 100%. She did mention to another friend that she wanted to do something big and she wanted it to be big enough to get her on TV.
Does she die?
No.
Bummer.
By December of 1978, so this is all within the same year, a psychiatric evaluation was ordered by her probation officer. And the results of that evaluation, they recommended that Brenda be admitted into a mental hospital for depression.
When they thought she was suicidal?
So this is all within the same year. This is all in 1978. That's why I keep saying it's during 1978. So the evaluation said she needed to be put into the mental hospital for depression. But good old Wallace Spencer, Brenda's daddy, refused to give consent for Brenda to be admitted into the hospital or to seek any form of treatment.
It's because he likes her as his pillow.
Mm-hmm. So that was in December, right? I'm guessing it was early December because by Christmas, so a couple weeks later, not only did Wallace refuse to allow his daughter treatment for her depression and her suicidal thoughts. And not only was she on probation for shooting up the elementary school with a BB gun, but dear sweet old alleged child molesting, child abusing Wallace buys his suicidal 16-year-old daughter a Ruger semi-automatic rifle with a
Did you just
telescopic
call
sight.
it a rugger?
What's it called?
A
Ruger?
Ruger.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Fuck you. How
It's
about that? I don't know nothing about
German.
guns.
Clearly, but a rugger. Oh my
Ruger.
God. I'm going to tell Dave
Fuck you.
that one. Oh.
I'll leave it in there just for Dave. You're welcome,
Oh.
Dave. Have you a giggle?
She got a new, it's a rugger. Never.
You ain't never heard of the knockoff brand?
How have you not? Oh, yeah. And the knockoff.
I know nothing.
The knockoff rugger, everyone.
Fuck you. How about that? I'll stand by that. Anyway.
He gave her a Ruger?
Yes. A semi-automatic 22 caliber rifle with a telescopic lens and 500 rounds of ammunition. It makes a lot of sense, right? Let's give a depressed kid who already shot the school across the street with a BB gun a rifle. I feel like he should have caught charges on several things, this being one of them. And then at some point, I guess after their whole Christmas break, Brenda told one of her teenage friends that she planned to do something that would get her on TV on Monday. And that brings us to the morning of Monday, January 29th, 1979. Brenda opened the lattice-covered window of their one-level home that she shared with her dad, and she began shooting at the children waiting outside the gates of Grover Cleveland Elementary School. The children were waiting for their 53-year-old principal, Burton Ragg, to open the gates to let them into the school. Brenda's rampage lasted for 20 minutes. She managed to get off 36 rounds. She injured 8 children, killed 3 staff members, and injured 1 police officer.
So she didn't kill any kids?
She did not. Sounded disappointed.
I know. Well, that's because when it sounds like when you said a school shooting, I thought there were going to be all these, like, I was preparing myself for dead little elementary schoolers. And then you threw it out there, the janitor and the principal, and a police officer.
And a teacher.
Okay, but I was just surprised that I thought she was picking off the children. She really just was picking off authorities. Although
I said she don't like authority.
Although, can I mention that 22s are a super tiny bullet? So not saying they don't kill, it's still a bullet, but I'm curious how many times they were shot.
I don't know that one.
Well, I was just saying is all. It's a teeny tiny, which is why you can get a lot of rounds for super cheap, because they're typically just like plinking target shooting, like small game, if you like, I guess a squirrel. But which, by the way, them shooting in their backyard, probably still not legal to do. Not that shooting at the school is legal to do, but I'm just saying discharging a firearm in city limits is still a crime.
Yes, but I'm going to say that the Paul snuggling his teenage daughter and the girl shooting up the school on probation don't give 2 shits about what them their law officials have to say.
That's true, and I suppose in the scheme of them shooting squirrels in the backyard with either a pellet gun or a 22, in the scheme of things, him molesting his daughter, like,
is the bigger no-no.
Yeah, I can see where it fell down the wayside.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I'm sure they're traumatized just the same. Not to belittle the staff members that died.
There was one child in particular that we're going to discuss here in the next 3 minutes, assuming you let me talk.
That's a long 20 minutes.
It's a long 20 minutes.
How long after she was gifted that gun did the shooting take place?
So I do know because he gave it to her on Christmas. So that's December 25th. And then her shooting rampage was on January 29th.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Dick, thanks for letting me know when Christmas was.
Well, I already said when it was, and you said, which, by the way, you're the dick.
Got the gift, and then when the shooting was, and you're like, so Christmas, which is December 25th. All right. I've seen a calendar before I realized.
But I said that brought us to the morning of January 29th.
Fine.
Yeah. And there are people out there that don't celebrate Christmas. So
Who buys someone who is depressed and suicidal a gun and 500 rounds of ammunition?
Or let's forget that she's also on probation for having shot a BB gun through the windows and vandalized the same school. And
Eh,
I don't even,
um,
can you buy a gun for somebody that's on probation? I thought that was like a no-no.
eh. Well, it's not her buying it.
I said, can you buy a gun for someone on probation? I didn't say she
Well,
done bought it.
she's not an adult. She can't possess that. It's really not hers. He might have bought it for her to use.
So, question on the whole probation thing. I know she's not an adult, so technically the gun is his. He's just buying it for her to use. But like, I guess it's only a felon that can't live in the house with a gun, right?
Right.
But somebody on probation, as long as it's not a felony, can
Well, so
still be in a.
that's kind of why I made the noise, because she's a minor. So it's not like when you go to purchase a gun, you have to fill out everyone who lives in your household.
As we done learned, especially in this
You
case,
don't know.
I don't know diddly about guns. I done never purchased one before, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they're typically assuming that you are the responsible gun owner, and that'll be that, not you're going to give it to somebody, which is why, like, I don't believe you can just do that one. I mean, people do, but she wouldn't even be able to fill it out because, again, she's a minor, so she wouldn't be able to fill it out and buy it herself anyway. So saying it was hers, it wasn't ish.
and I realized this was in the 70s, and I realize that you might get snippy with me now with this question, but do they ask when you fill out like the thingy for the gun if there's anybody on probation or anything in the household? Because wouldn't you have to say yes to that?
Mm, I've never bought a gun.
What? You're an ass. You know that? You're an ass. Oh god, I think that's the best thing I've heard all day. You're an ass. You're such an ass. Oh my gosh.
I've gone with Dave. I've perused some of the paperwork. It seems pretty straightforward of what's your name. You're aware we're going to do a background check. That you're aware that if you have been convicted of whatever crimes, you can't get a gun. You're also aware of that. I don't know. Again, I wasn't buying it. I was there for moral support. So I don't remember the questions.
Uh-huh. All right. You're an ass. I'll stand by that.
Your reaction, though. What? Technically, I would be one of those people who we have guns. I am a user of said guns. I don't own said guns.
You can't see me right now, but I'm shaking my head at you.
So he buys her the gun. It's a month afterwards.
I already did all of that.
What? She mowed him down.
She didn't. She was trying to scope him out. She was picking them off. We'll get into it, but she was
That'd be so
selecting.
scary. Did they open the gates?
So, yes, they did open the gates and they gathered as many children as they could. But one of the children she ended up shooting was 7-year-old Charles Miller. She selected Charles because he was wearing blue, and that was her favorite color.
What the fuck?
And poor little Charles said he walked up to the office area and saw the principal and the custodian laying dead in the bushes. And that's when he got shot.
Oh, I was going to say, he walked after he got shot? Why did you laugh at that?
Because the tone in your voice is the same as when you were sad about the plate of cookies.
Fuck you.
So
You'll just never understand why I think the plate of cookies is so devastating to me.
I will never get it. But the sadness in your voice over him getting shot in the back and possibly walking after being shot is the same level of sadness as an empty plate of cookies.
It was a full
or an
uneaten
plate of cookies. My bad. God forbid I misspeak on the cookies.
It would be the same thing if I got home and something tragic happened to Dave and he died and there was a full plate of whatever snack or an unopened
Chips.
I would
Yep.
be crushed because I know how he cares about his chips. And he didn't even get his bag of chips.
Dave, that lets you know how much she loves you. She wants you to get your bag of chips before you die.
Before you're raped and bludgeoned to death by some man.
But that would be why I just left. And for those who are not listening to us in order, which is fine, or for those that need a refresher, because my memory isn't so good, we're talking about Season 1, Episode 4, Childhood Delinquent. But anywho, back to poor little Charles. And while he's standing there, horrified at 7 years old, looking at his principal and the custodian shot, dead, he was shot in the back. A different article on this case.
Yes,
And
still doing research.
so I think the little boy, Charles, was shot multiple times. I could be wrong, but he said in a different article as an adult that he remembers his mother dropping him off that morning and suddenly feeling something like an electric shock next to his heart. He blacked out briefly and woke up to a 7-year-old girl leading him around the corner to a teacher. And he saw the principal and the custodian both lying on the ground. And then he was struck in the back, and the bullet exited out his chest, missing his internal organs, but leaving the scar tissue, which to this day still is tender and hurts. So, poor baby.
Mm-hmm. It's a good thing she was gifted a 22.
It's just,
I mean, anything bigger and he wouldn't be living to tell the tale.
yeah. Another little girl was shot through the wrist. The staff of the school were trying to help the kids, and Principal Burton Ragg and a teacher named Daryl Barnes, they tried to help get the children to safety. Brenda also murdered the 56-year-old custodian, Mike Sucher, as he tried to pull a child to safety. Brenda also ended up shooting a 28-year-old police officer. I realize I'm going to be 5 years old here, okay? And I know this is in the middle of some horrific details of little kids and adults being murdered and shot. But the police officer's name is Robert Robb. I don't know why, but it made me laugh when I read that his name is Robert Robb. So his name's Rob. Really? Officer Rob. Rob. Come here, Rob. Shut up, Claire. Seriously. You know it's funny.
Sorry, I'm just picturing all these bodies and you decide to fixate on a victim's name.
It's how my brain gets through all the horrific details. I latch on to something I find funny, and I find his name funny.
You called him like a dog. Come here, Rob. Who calls any person like that? Come here, Dave. No, I do that with the dog.
Well, I wasn't calling him like a dog. I was calling him like he was a little kid. His parents didn't find that funny. You know they did. Rob, their last name's Rob. Why would you name your kid Robert? It's not like he's a junior.
How many people die in total? Because I thought you said 3 adults. You said the principal, the custodian, and the police officer, and then you started listing other people.
The principal and the custodian have been murdered so far. Now, the 28-year-old police officer, Robert Robb, she shot Rob in the neck as he was responding to the school.
So he doesn't die.
He does not die. More casualties were avoided only because of the quick thinking of officers. They pulled a garbage truck up in front of the school, blocking Brenda's line of fire. Police evacuated the rest of the students out of the elementary school through the back of the building.
Whoever's idea the garbage truck was should have gotten a major award for that. Because 500 rounds and the gates being barely open, and you figure the adults who are there are keeled over, and I'm sure a frenzy of little kids not sure what to do.
Yeah, they were just scattering everywhere.
Yeah, that garbage truck made this way less of a disaster.
Yeah. Now, like I said before, her rampage lasted for 20 minutes. And then once her line of fire was blocked, she barricaded herself into her house for around 7 hours. I would assume at work. He's not there.
I thought he's an alcoholic without teeth. What's he do for work?
Maybe he's passed out on a sidewalk somewhere. I don't know. He
I
was not
feel
in
like
the
he should have been the first one shot.
I agree. So I just Googled it and it said that Wallace Spencer worked in the audio visual department of San Diego State University.
Doing what? Him, her dad, or just somebody with that name?
No, it says her father, Wallace Spencer, who worked as an audio visual department of San Diego State University, had given his daughter a 22 caliber semi-automatic rifle for Christmas the month before she opened fire on the children.
Fine.
Anyhow, she barricades herself into the house for around 7 hours. And outside of the school, ambulances were driving away filled with injured children and the 3 murdered adults. There were crowds of people, media vans with camera crews, and around 100 police officers. On a scarring note, apparently when the ambulances were rushing to get the children who are wailing because they've been shot and the adults that have been killed, and they're trying to get away from the school and get everybody to the hospital. One of the ambulances was carrying the janitor and the 7-year-old little boy, Charles, who was shot in the back.
I thought the janitor's dead.
He is, but they're still trying to get the body. You know
But the
how with
boy's not dead.
but you know how with paramedics, if there's an active shooter, they're really not supposed to be there until the scene is secure. I think that they were just scooping the injured,
Piling him
and
in.
I don't know if they necessarily took the time to try to resuscitate or really assess the adults until they got them in the ambulances. If that makes sense. That's the way I interpret it. But anywho, the ambulance that was carrying the janitor and 7-year-old Charles, who was shot in the back, to the hospital, it took a hard turn and the dead body of the janitor, Mike Sucher, rolled on top of the 7-year-old little boy in the back of the ambulance.
What the fuck? How?
Yeah,
Like, I don't blame them for wanting to skedaddle out of there, but what the fuck? No one's strapped down?
nobody was strapped down. It's the 70s. They did things very wild. It's literally like if you
They
take
just
out
chunked
the
him in the wheelbarrow and ran.
right.
I mean, they got out of there, but that poor boy.
Yeah, so when he's an adult, he mentions during one of the parole hearings that he still has nightmares, which I feel like are completely justified.
He still
I
can't
mean,
be on bottom.
oh my God, that's not funny. But I really feel because when you said how scary that would be, like the whole shooting aspect, but then to have the body of somebody else that's been killed on top of you.
I wonder if when they were throwing everybody in the ambulance, by the way, if there was nobody in the back, they were just like all hands on deck. I mean, like they just chunked them in there.
It's possible. I was thinking they like same idea. They just threw him in there and then the driver just
sped off.
and I know it's not funny, okay, but in my head,
Sounds like a
I'm
cartoon.
yes, I'm picturing a cartoon and like somebody's holding on to the back of the door as it's as their legs are flopping through the air. The ambulance is just flying. And then you get glimpses of the inside of the ambulance and bodies are bouncing everywhere. But apparently that's really what happened. And I feel so bad for little Charles. Like, oh gosh, 7 years old.
And big Charles.
I feel for him. I like seriously, I'm glad that all these children survived this. They were so young. All these poor babies. Like, ugh, I don't know. It's really messed up.
I don't see how they didn't kill her.
According to the New York Daily News, which, if you know anything about news articles, they're up there with like the Inquirer. So you got to take what you read from them with a grain of salt. But according to the New York Daily News, once the police located Brenda's home, they gave her phone number to a local reporter, supposedly, and that reporter called Brenda. Now, that's according to the New York Daily News. And I realize this happened in the 70s, and maybe that's just how possible. They did it. Right. But it seems strange to me that police would be like, oh, here's the possible shooter's information. Here, you random reporter, give this a whirl. But then, according to the San Diego Union Tribune, a reporter had been randomly calling telephone numbers for the homes in the neighborhood, trying to get answers from any witnesses to the shooting.
I'd
But the
want to know
point,
what the neighbors said about her
well,
and the dad, for that matter.
well, the dad, they said he was super weird and antisocial, and the loner, and that they were a weird pair. My main point is somehow a reporter got a hold of Brenda over the phone during her whole 7 hours of barricading herself in the house.
Hmm.
And the reporter asked Brenda if she had any idea of where the shots in her neighborhood were coming from. And Brenda replied, quote, "Yeah, who do you think was doing the shooting?"
That's what they're trying to find out.
And you want to talk about a gold mine for a reporter, getting the shooter on the phone? Jeez.
Why would she even answer the phone?
Uh. And then while Brenda was chit-chatting with the reporter, she told this guy that she was the one who shot all the children, and she shot the adults because, quote, "I don't like Mondays, and this livens up the day." That was her reasoning
Now
for
it's gonna
killing,
make me extra cautious for people when they come in. They got a case of the Mondays.
right? Brenda, by the way, also told that reporter that for Christmas, she'd asked for a radio and instead was given a semi-automatic rifle.
Maybe he just thought she said Ruger wrong.
When the reporter asked Brenda why she thought her dad purchased the rifle for her, she responded, quote, "He bought the rifle so I would kill myself."
I think he did.
I agree.
No, because then he would have only got her one round. I think that when he was realizing she was getting older and probably was a matter of time before she tattled on him diddling her, or doing whatever it is he was doing to her, he figured if she's already suicidal, if she punches her own ticket, it gets him off the hook. Which
Yeah.
is why I say, where is Dad?
We're going to talk about dad at the end of all this, but at some point, Brenda spoke with the police negotiators and she told them that the children and adults whom she decided to shoot, she picked them because they were easy targets. And she also told them, quote, "I like to watch the children squirm around after they'd been shot," which is really fucking disgusting.
Oh,
She also mentioned that she decided to shoot anyone who was wearing blue because it's her favorite color. She also targeted children that were in feather down filled coats because she liked to see the feathers fly as the bullets hit the children.
that is fucked up.
Yeah. A police officer with a bullhorn paced back and forth until Brenda surrendered. She did say that she was going to come out shooting, and eventually, after talking to the officers, she does in fact surrender peacefully. And as she leaves the house, she's walked across the driveway and she was escorted by the SWAT team. During her 7 hours of barricading herself, and since they lived in such poverty, I'm guessing there was no food in the house, because the reason she decided to surrender was because she was hungry, and the SWAT team or the police negotiator, someone, promised her a meal from Burger King if she gave up.
What?
Hmm. And then Brenda was also quoted or misquoted or referring to the children that she shot as cows, saying that shooting them was fun and the whole she wanted to liven up her Monday.
I don't understand that. The cows thing? You don't round up cows and shoot them.
I don't know.
Mm.
I think she's just full of baloney.
Burger King.
No, she wants to be full of Burger King. I think she's full
She's
of
only got
baloney.
she's only got string cheese and bolognas. Although, when did string cheese become a thing?
I don't know.
What?
What's with you and food? Your plate of cookies, and now you're asking about string cheese.
You were the one who said bologna. I was just simply saying, I was picturing a roll up kind of thing. You throw a string cheese in there and make one of those little pinwheel looking things.
I think that you should have you a snack before we record stuff.
It's been hours up here again. I've had to take 2 pee breaks. And I didn't realize I needed to pencil in snack breaks. I done missed lunch altogether.
So did I, but I ain't sitting here dwelling on the food. Once investigators got into the house, they took photos of the empty beer bottles and whiskey bottles that were everywhere. And police said that Brenda was not intoxicated when she was arrested. Brenda ended up being charged as an adult, and she pled guilty to 2 counts of murder and assault with a deadly weapon.
Where is Dad?
I don't know. On April 4th, 1980, the day after her 18th birthday, she was sentenced to 2 25 to life prison sentences. And since she pled guilty and did not testify, the only explanation that was ever given for her shooting spree was simply because she did not like Mondays.
The fuck, Andrea?
While incarcerated, Brenda was diagnosed with epilepsy and received medication to treat that. And then she also finally received treatment for her depression. Ghetto Wallace Spencer, Brenda's dad, he still lived in the same house that she shot up the school
What the hell?
from. He lived there until he died, and he would go almost every Saturday to visit his daughter in prison. Now, I would call this yet another one of my fun facts, but I'll call it a disgusting fact just for you, Claire. Brenda's former cellmate from juvenile hall, her name was Sheila.
Mhm.
She met Wallace during some of his Saturday visits to Brenda, and our fun, disgusting fact was that Wallace Spencer will go ahead and knock up the 17-year-old Sheila McCoy, his daughter's roommate or cellmate. And police ended up wanting to bring Wallace up on statutory rape and contributing to the delinquency of a minor charges because this pedophile of a man decided the only way to avoid those charges is that he would marry the 17-year-old with permission from her parents. Right?
What's wrong with you?
Her parents gave permission for this 41-year-old man to marry their troubled teenage daughter. And to make
wash their hands of her, though. She's already bad. They're like, good luck.
What? Pretty much.
Dude,
and then to make
that baby.
Hang on. Then to make the situation even more disturbing, the 17-year-old that he knocked up looked so much like his own daughter that when he moved her into his home,
he named her Brenda.
Everyone around the area thought that Brenda had been released from prison.
That's disgusting. Like it was Brenda.
Yes. And the girl that he hooked up with was younger than Brenda. So there for a little while, Brenda was older than her stepmother.
Well, you think why they were cellmates? She made her call her mom.
Well, so I'm thinking that when she got released from the juvenile detention center, she shacked up with Brenda's pal.
Fine, Andrea.
You're welcome. I'm not jumping on your Alabama bandwagon. Anyway.
He didn't marry his daughter.
He kind of did. He picked a girl that looked just like her. But for a little while Brenda was older than her stepmother.
Hey, I got a better one. Maybe when he went to visit her, he got him confused.
It's entirely possible. Eventually, the 17-year-old will abandon their baby girl and Brenda's father, and she takes off. I have no idea what happened with her. I have no idea what happened with the baby. No charges ever came against this piece of shit Wallace because he married the teenager and her parents had signed off on it. Another little girl that was shot.
You're still researching?
Shut up. One of the other little girls that was shot, her name was Christy. She was one of the most seriously injured, aside from the people that died, that is. She was hit in the abdomen and in the butt. Part of her intestines ended up being removed, and she had a colostomy bag for 4 months. She spent 42 days in the hospital having multiple surgeries.
She got a skunk wound.
She's got a foot-long scar across her belly. It was bad.
It's not good.
I would agree. Okay, so the little girl, Christy, that I just mentioned, that had the giant scar and was...
And the poo bag.
Yeah. She still lives in her childhood home. Like, I guess she took it over from her parents or whatever. And she works or runs a daycare. Now, Brenda's dad, Wallace, has this new little baby, right? And the mom to the baby is gone. Well, that little girl ends up going to the preschool that Christy, the survivor of Brenda's attack, works at. You follow me?
No.
So Christy is the little girl that had the surgery
Uh-huh.
that Brenda shot. As an adult, she's now working or running a preschool
Uh-huh.
because she stayed in that same neighborhood, and so did Brenda's father, Wallace. When his
Oh, when he
baby,
remarries,
she ran off and left the little girl. The little girl was
is that
enrolled at the preschool with Christy. And one day while
she smothered her?
she, no, one day while she was at school, the little girl walks up to Christy and says, just plain as day, "My sister's in jail."
Oh. Um,
Yeah,
and it's when the teacher just does the whole, yeah, for shooting.
right? I don't think she did that. I just think it's crazy. Crazy small world. So while she was at the institution for women that was located in Chino, California, Brenda worked repairing electronic equipment, and she also learned how to operate a forklift. Brenda also lopped off her red hair, most of her red hair, and she made it into a mullet. In 1993, Brenda became eligible for parole. At her first hearing in 93, Brenda said that she'd hoped police would shoot her when she surrendered, which is why she was telling them she would come out guns a-blazing. And then Brenda decided to try to explain away her actions by saying she'd smoked marijuana and PCP also while drinking alcohol. And the combination of all these things made her believe that the children on the playground were evil commandos and that she was like saving the world by plucking them off.
Right. Why would
Uh-huh. And by the way, they had done blood tests when she was arrested. I guess
uh-huh.
standard procedure. The drug tests were negative for anything. So her saying that she was on drugs is or under the influence of anything when she was arrested was just
She
a flat
probably
out
didn't
lie.
know it could be proven.
Perhaps. And then during another probation hearing in 2001, Brenda claimed that her father had been beating her and sexually abusing her. The parole board chairman said Brenda had never mentioned the allegations of abuse ever before, and they weren't sure whether or not they wanted to believe that they were true now, seeing as how during other parole
Yeah.
hearings she trying
No,
to.
it's convenient.
Mhm. During this parole hearing, she went on record as saying that her father sodomized her, and then she used the phrase almost rape. And then when they were like, what does almost mean? Either he rapes you or he doesn't. And she
It was
said
just the
that.
tip.
So
What?
I don't know. I don't know. When they asked her what does almost rape mean, she's like, that's just what it was like. So I don't know if she's saying like because he didn't stick it in her vagina, he stuck it in her ass.
That's still rape.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm saying I don't know what the hell she's talking about. Or maybe it's your route of things and it's just the tip. Who the fuck knows? I feel
It's
like
still on a technicality, even if it's partially. Maybe he had whiskey dick, so he tried, but
it just fell flat. It was a deflated balloon.
just smacked a butt cheek.
Brenda also said that she tried to discuss this topic with her father, but he would always respond with, I don't want to talk about it.
Why would he want to?
I don't know. The parole commissioner, when they denied Brenda's parole in 2001, told Brenda that her motive of her crime was very trivial in relationship to the offense, and that the world is filled with things that should never happen to children, but it does not justify violence, which I agree with.
Yeah. I almost said 100%. But I agree, because again, that her dad should have been the first victim. Not to encourage anybody to go out and shoot him, but her dad should have been her first victim. That I don't understand why children were targeted at all. She can make up whatever she wants about PCP and all whatever she wants to. But dad was the one who was doing the shit he shouldn't have been doing.
If he was even doing that.
She should have strapped him to a chair and pellet gunned him up.
Right.
Abby, how many pellets it takes to get to the center?
In 2005, a San Diego deputy district attorney cited an incident of Brenda trying to harm herself 4 years earlier when Brenda's girlfriend was released from jail.
And left her behind.
Yep.
Get it?
The attorney used that self-harming incident to show that Brenda was psychotic and unfit to be released to the public.
I would agree.
Also, while incarcerated, Brenda scratched the words "unforgiven" and "alone" into her own skin.
Did she tweeze her eyebrows?
I have pictures of her. I'll
Her
send her to you.
eyelashes?
No, those look like they're still there. But you know how some of them, they're redheads. You can't, they're hairs.
Or looks like.
Yep. But in 2009, the parole board once again refused Brenda to be released, and it was ruled that it would be another 10 years before she would be considered for parole again. After being refused so many times, that brings us to August of 2022. Brenda,
if you tell me she's out, Andrea, I'm not talking to you the rest of today.
No. So in August of 2022, Brenda and the parole board agreed that Brenda was not yet suitable for release and that she should not be eligible for parole for another 3 years. Brenda remains in well, she just for another hearing. But seeing as how she isn't being released yet, then I mean, you figure since 1993, she's had the opportunity to get parole, but because she won't own up to her shit, she's not eligible for parole. She remains in prison at the California Institute for Women in Chino, California. Her next parole hearing will be held in 2025. A plaque and a flagpole were put up at the Grover Cleveland Elementary School in memory of the shooting victims. Now, this is a random fact that I would typically refer to as a fun fact, but I will refrain. On January 17th, 1989, nearly 10 years after Brenda shot up the Grover Cleveland Elementary School in San Diego, literally 10 days shy of being 10 years, there was another shooting at another elementary school in California, but this school was in Stockton, California, but it was also named the Grover Cleveland Elementary School.
What the hell?
Yeah, 5 students were killed and 30 were injured. So if anybody takes anything away from this and commits it to memory, do not attend a Grover Cleveland Elementary School.
Right? And shoot your rapists.
But I was curious, and Wallace ended up passing away in 2016. I don't know of what. I hope it was painful.
Oh, probably wasn't. Probably his liver failed.
Perhaps. Or he had an infection from one of them their teeth.
Ew. The Pope finally released.
I think I just threw up a little.
The fuck kind of case?
I haven't even
one
done
poor
yet.
Little boy gets smushed with a body.
Yeah, that was sad. But Brenda also wrote to the band the Boomtown Rats. She told them that she was glad that she did what she did because it made her famous. And Bob and Johnny, the musicians or whatever of Boomtown Rats, ended up writing a song titled "I Don't Like Mondays," and it was #1 in the UK single charts. In my opinion, it was distasteful, but the band created a music video for that song in a classroom filled with young children. The chorus of the song, part of the chorus, was "I don't like Mondays, I want to shoot the whole day down." Also disgusting. And Brenda's attorneys feel like eventually she'll be paroled because she's done a lot of work on herself. So some of the kids that survived Brenda's shooting have mixed feelings about her being eventually released, because you have some, like poor little Charles, who's still having nightmares as an adult. And then you have others who have understanding and believe her bullshit of if she was being molested by her father or abused and was suffering from depression, which you can't argue that because there's literally school records showing that she needed to be put into an institution to be treated immediately. And her dad was like, No. And then turned around and handed her a gun and a bunch of ammunition. So you have people that are on that side of things that are like, if she had gotten her head screwed on straight and wasn't provided a gun and weapon and ammunition and everything else, that this could have been
Wouldn't have,
completely avoided,
wouldn't
you
have
know?
happened.
Yeah. But then you've got the son of the murdered custodian. His name's Wilfred Sucher. He did ask I would assume the parole board, or it was a reporter, but he's quoted as asking, "My question is, will there be another boring Monday for her?"
That's actually a good question.
Right? So she just murdered 3 adults and tried
Because
to murder 8 children because she was bored.
I realize people frown upon a death penalty when it's a juvenile offender, but she's a waste of oxygen. I feel
Yes.
sorry
And
for her because her dad created her as the monster she is. That's where the depression, even if they would have tried to treat the depression and her suicidal thoughts, him doing the things he was doing to her were causing all of that.
but at the same time, if she had gone into an institution and had like a safe space, if she was comfortable in that safe space and did vocalize what was happening to her, she could have been removed from that situation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, it was the 70s.
True.
We were looking at it with 20 somethings glasses.
Yeah. I feel like her dad should have been brought up on charges for lots of things, but on the bare minimum,
He shouldn't have been rewarded for a teen with a tween wife.
disgusting.
What the fuck is that?
I'll send you over the pictures though, because the new wife did look. I actually confused it and thought that
He probably was so excited because he got a younger edition.
mhm,
That's why it
probably.
makes me curious. Did they go to visit her together afterwards, or was he no longer needing to visit since he had himself a look-alike?
I want to know what happened to the baby, because if
Yeah.
the girl ran off and left the baby behind, she left the baby with a
I would, yeah.
disgusting piece of garbage.
And I would be curious if it was like still sleeping on that same mattress, or did he spring for a new one?
It's- ugh.
So sorry.
Yeah. But as for the Grover Cleveland Elementary School in San Diego that Brenda shot up, that was closed in 1983. In 2005 to 2017, that school was called the Magnolia Science Academy. And then in 2018, the school was demolished and the plaque was relocated to a nearby street corner. But that is the first female school shooter in the United States history. Brenda Ann Spencer, 16 years old.
Okay.
But
Well,
they're saying.
thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.